The greatest tragedy in life is not death, it's living without ever truly mattering. But here's the secret most people never discover: legacy isn't built in grand moments. It's carved out in the quiet, disciplined rituals of each ordinary day. Good evening. Tonight I want to talk with you about something that matters more than money, more than fame, more than the fleeting applause of the crowd. I want to talk about legacy, your legacy, and the 4 simple things you can do every single day in this year of 2026 that will ensure you leave this world richer than you found it. You see, most people think legacy is something you plan for in your will, something carved on a headstone, something that happens after you're gone. But that's not legacy. That's just memory, and memory fades. True legacy is what you're building right now, in this moment, in the choices you're making today, the words you're speaking, the example you're setting. Legacy isn't inherited, it's created. And it's created one day at a time in the small, seemingly insignificant decisions that nobody else notices. Here's what I've learned after studying successful men and women for decades. We become what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. And if excellence is a habit, then so is significance, so is impact, so is legacy. Now, let me share with you the 4 things, the 4 daily disciplines that separate those who vanish from history from those who echo through it. First, give more value than you take. Every single day, make it your mission to improve the lives of others, not once in a while, not when it's convenient. Daily, ask yourself each morning, who can I serve today? What can I give that costs me something but enriches someone else? You don't need wealth to do this. You don't need position or power. A kind word to someone who's struggling. A listening ear when everyone else is talking. Teaching what you know to someone hungrier than you are. These are the seeds of legacy. The world remembers builders, not consumers. It remembers givers, not takers. And when you make giving your daily practice, you become unforgettable, not because people praise you, but because they carry forward what you gave them. Second, invest in your own growth relentlessly. Here's a truth that might sting a little. You cannot give what you do not have. If you want to leave a legacy of wisdom, you must become wise. If you want to inspire, you must first be inspired. If you want to lead others to greatness, you must walk that path yourself. So commit right now to becoming better today than you were yesterday. Read for 30 minutes. Listen to ideas that challenge you. Learn a new skill. Strengthen your body. Discipline your mind. Deepen your spirit. The person you are today is not the person who will build your legacy. That person is still being formed by you through the daily decision to grow. Don't settle for who you are. Become who you're capable of being. And do it every single day. Third, create something that lasts beyond you. A legacy requires a vessel. It needs something tangible, something that outlives your heartbeat. Now, I'm not saying you need to write a best-selling book or paint a masterpiece, though if you can, wonderful. What I am saying is this: every day, build something, create something. Contribute to something larger than yourself. Maybe it's a business that serves your community. Maybe it's raising children with character and vision. Maybe it's a body of work, writings, teachings, innovations that future generations can learn from. Maybe it's simply being so excellent at what you do that the standard you set becomes the standard others aspire to. Don't let your days evaporate into distraction and consumption. Produce. Build. Make your mark. Because when you're gone, the only thing that remains is what you created. And fourth, live with intention, not by accident. Here's the difference between people who leave a legacy and people who simply leave intentionality. Most people drift through life, reacting to circumstances, blown about by every wind of opinion and emotion. They have no plan, no purpose, no North Star guiding their daily choices. And so, when they're gone, there's nothing to remember them by, because they never stood for anything. But you're different. You're listening to this because something inside you knows you're meant for more. So take control. Each morning, before the world gets its hands on you, decide what kind of day you're going to create. Set your intentions, choose your priorities, align your actions with your values. Ask yourself, if this were my last day, would I be proud of how I spent it? Would it reflect the person I want to be remembered as? Live deliberately, live purposefully. Because legacy is not an accident, it's the result of 1,000 intentional days, stacked one upon the other. Now, my friend, let me tell you something important. These 4 things: giving, growing, creating, and living with intention, they're not complicated. They're not out of reach. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need to wait for Monday or next month or the right time. You need only to begin today. Because here's the truth, your legacy is being written right now, not someday, not when you're older, wiser, more prepared now. In what you do in the next hour, in how you treat the next person you encounter, in whether you choose comfort or contribution. And the most beautiful part, every day you wake up is a blank page, a fresh chance to add to the story, to build something meaningful, to become someone worth remembering. Legacy is not what you leave behind, it's what you build within others while you're still here. You know, I've met a lot of people over the years who are absolutely terrified of being forgotten. And I mean terrified. They lie awake at night wondering if their name will mean anything a decade from now. They obsess over monuments and achievements, desperately trying to secure their place in history. They think that legacy is something that happens after they die, a final judgment, a posthumous scorecard that determines whether their life mattered. And the more they chase it, the more anxious they become. Because how do you control what happens after you're gone? How do you guarantee you'll be remembered? It feels like trying to grab smoke with your bare hands. But here's what I want you to understand, and this might take a moment to settle in, so bear with me. What if everything we've been taught about legacy is backward? See, we've been conditioned to think of legacy as this grand, final thing, the culmination, the eulogy, the chapter written about us in the history books. We imagine it as something that begins the moment we take our last breath, as if our entire life's meaning is determined by what others say at our funeral or carve on our tombstone. But that's not how it actually works. Real legacy, the kind that truly endures, isn't something you leave behind like an inheritance or a photo album. It's something you're building right now, today, in real time, in the hearts and minds and habits of the people around you. Think about the people who've had the greatest impact on your life. The teacher who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. The mentor who showed you a better way. The parent who modeled integrity even when no one was watching. The friend who challenged you to think bigger. Are these people gone? Some might be. But here's the critical point, their legacy wasn't created at their funeral. It was created in those ordinary moments when they chose to invest in you, when they shared their wisdom, when they gave you their time, when they saw potential in you that you couldn't see in yourself. Their legacy lives in you, right now, in the way you think, the way you work, the values you hold, the standards you refuse to compromise. They're not behind you in some distant past, they're within you, shaping your present, guiding your future. That's what real legacy is. It's not carved in stone, it's planted in people. And here's the beautiful relief in understanding this. You don't have to wait until you're old or successful or finished with your life's work to build a legacy. You don't need fame or wealth or power. You don't need to write a best-selling book or have your name on a building. You simply need to invest in the people around you. Today, tomorrow, every single day you're given. When you teach someone what you know, that's legacy. When you encourage someone who's ready to quit, that's legacy. When you model excellence in your work, your character, your relationships, and others rise higher because they witnessed your example, that's legacy. The truth is, legacy isn't something you leave behind. It's something you give forward. And the most powerful part, you get to see it happen. You get to witness the seeds you plant take root and grow. You get to experience the joy of knowing your life is making a difference right now, not in some uncertain future. So stop worrying about being remembered. Start focusing on being remarkable in the true sense of that word, worth remarking upon, worth carrying forward. Build your legacy in people. Do it today. Do it while you're still here. That's where immortality really lives. Your daily habits are the architect's blueprints of your immortality. I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Imagine you're standing at the end of your life, looking back. And what you see terrifies you, not because you failed dramatically or made catastrophic mistakes, but because you realize that all those small choices, all those seemingly insignificant daily decisions you thought didn't matter, they added up, they compounded. And they built a life you never actually intended to live. The extra hour spent watching television instead of reading, the shortcut you took when no one was looking, the conversation you avoided because it was uncomfortable, the skill you meant to learn someday, each one harmless by itself, but multiplied across years. They created a person you don't recognize, a legacy of mediocrity you never consciously chose. That's what keeps people up at night, isn't it? The gnawing suspicion that they're drifting, that the life they're building day by day isn't the life they actually want to be remembered for. Now, let me ask you to pause right there, before that fear takes root, because there's something crucial you need to understand about how life actually works. You see, most people misunderstand the relationship between their daily actions and their ultimate destination. They think big results come from big actions, grand gestures, dramatic moments, one-time heroic efforts. So they wait for the perfect opportunity. They wait for inspiration to strike. They wait until they feel ready to become the person they aspire to be. But that's not how human beings are built. That's not how greatness is forged. That's not how legacy is created. Here's what actually happens. Every single thing you do, every thought you think, every action you take, every habit you repeat is literally constructing the person you're becoming. Your brain is rewiring itself around your patterns. Your character is being carved by your choices. Your future is being assembled piece by microscopic piece by what you're doing right now, today. Think of it this way. If I asked you to build a magnificent cathedral, you wouldn't try to lift the entire structure in one heroic moment, would you? Of course not. You'd lay one brick, then another. Day after day, week after week, year after year. Each individual brick seems almost laughably insignificant. But the cathedral is inevitable as long as you keep laying bricks. Your daily habits, they're your bricks. And whether you realize it or not, you're building something with them. The only question is, what are you building? If you read for 30 minutes every day, you're building wisdom. If you exercise your body consistently, you're building vitality. If you practice your craft daily, you're building mastery. If you show up with integrity when no one's watching, you're building character. But here's the liberating truth that changes everything. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. You don't have to wait until you're ready or motivated or inspired. You just have to make one good choice today. Then another one tomorrow, and then another the day after that. Because legacy isn't built in moments, it's built in patterns. It's built in the quiet repetition of small, deliberate actions that nobody sees but everybody eventually experiences. Those daily habits of yours, they're not just routines. They're not just time fillers. They're the invisible architecture of your immortality. They're literally designing who you'll become and what you'll leave behind. So here's your relief. You don't have to become great all at once. You don't have to achieve everything today. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to decide what kind of person you want to be remembered as, and then start living like that person today. One habit at a time. One choice at a time. Do that, and your legacy isn't just possible, it's guaranteed. To be remembered, you must first be remarkable, and that begins with what you do when no one is watching. There's a particular kind of panic that grips people in the middle of the night. It's the sudden, cold realization that they're invisible, that they're living, working, going through all the motions, but leaving absolutely no impression on the world. They look around and see others being recognized, celebrated, making waves while they feel like they're just there, taking up space, easily replaced, instantly forgotten. And so they start performing. They post carefully curated versions of their life online. They chase titles and accolades. They talk louder in meetings hoping someone will notice. They work frantically to build a brand, an image, a public persona that screams, "I matter! Remember me!" But here's the brutal truth. The harder they perform, the more hollow it feels. Because deep down they know the applause is for a character they're playing, not for who they actually are. And that's the most isolating feeling in the world, to be seen everywhere, but known nowhere. So let me tell you something you might need to sit with for a minute before it makes sense. The people who are truly remembered, the ones whose names echo through time, whose influence ripples across generations, they're not remembered because of their public performance. They're remembered because of their private discipline. Think about the people you admire most. Not celebrities, I mean the people you truly admire. The ones whose character you respect, whose example you want to follow, whose approval actually means something to you. What makes them remarkable? Is it what they said in front of a crowd? Or is it who they were when the crowd went home? It's who they were in the quiet moments, isn't it? when they had every excuse to cut corners but didn't, when they could have chosen the easy path but chose the right one instead, when no one would have known if they'd compromised, but they maintained their standards anyway. That's what remarkable actually means, not loud, not flashy, not performing for an audience. Remarkable means worth remarking upon, worth talking about, worth remembering, not because you demanded attention, but because your character commanded respect. See, here's how this really works. Your public reputation, that's just an echo. It's the sound that bounces back from who you actually are in private. You can't manufacture it. You can't fake it for long. Eventually, the truth seeps through. But your private character, that's the source. That's the real you. And it's being built or eroded in all those moments when nobody's watching. When you choose to do excellent work, even though your boss isn't in the office. When you keep your word even when breaking it would be easier. When you tell the truth even when a lie would serve you better. When you practice your craft for the 1,000th time, refining it, perfecting it, not for applause but for the satisfaction of doing it right. Those moments. Those are the moments that build something real, something solid, something that lasts. And here's the beautiful part, the part that should fill you with hope rather than pressure. You don't have to perform. You don't have to compete for attention. You don't have to shout louder than everyone else or manufacture some artificial version of yourself to be noticed. You just have to be genuinely excellent when no one's looking. You just have to build your character brick by brick in the privacy of your own choices. You just have to become someone whose private standards are so high that your public results become inevitable. Because here's what happens when you're truly remarkable in private, you become undeniable in public. Not through promotion or performance, but through the simple fact that excellence cannot hide forever. Character cannot be concealed. Real substance always rises to the surface. The world doesn't remember actors. It remembers authentic human beings who lived with such integrity, such excellence, such unwavering standards that they became impossible to ignore and even more impossible to forget. So stop performing for an audience. Start perfecting yourself in the silence. Be remarkable where it counts. In the unseen moments, in the private choices, in the daily discipline that nobody applauds. Do that, and I promise you, you won't have to chase recognition. It will find you. The difference between a life of impact and a life of regret is found in the consistency of small, meaningful actions. You know what haunts people more than anything else? It's not the big mistakes. It's not the dramatic failures or the obvious wrong turns. It's something far more insidious. It's the slow, creeping realization that years have passed and nothing has really changed. That they're still talking about the same dreams they had 5 years ago. Still making the same promises to themselves. Still waiting for that right moment. To finally become who they know they're capable of being. And the calendar keeps flipping. Days turn into months. Months turn into years. And they wake up one morning and realize they've spent a decade preparing to live instead of actually living. The book never got written. The business never got started. The relationship never got healed. The skills never got mastered. Not because they didn't want these things, they desperately wanted them, but because they kept waiting for that one perfect day when everything would align, when they'd feel ready, when circumstances would finally cooperate. And that day never came, and the dream slowly died of neglect. Now, before you let that sink in too deep, I want you to take a breath. Because there's something about how change actually works that nobody seems to talk about. And once you understand it, everything shifts. Here's what we get wrong about meaningful change, about real impact, about building something that matters. We think it requires massive action, heroic effort, some dramatic turning point where we completely overhaul our lives in one sweeping gesture. So we wait. We wait until we have more time, more money, more energy, more certainty. We wait until we feel inspired, until the conditions are perfect, until we can go all in. But that's not how transformation happens. That's not how impact is created. That's not how ordinary people build extraordinary lives. Let me tell you how it actually works. There's a Japanese concept called Kaizen, continuous improvement. Small incremental changes repeated consistently over time. And what the Japanese discovered in their factories, in their businesses, in their lives, is something profound. Tiny improvements, compounded daily, create revolutionary results. Think about it. If you improve by just 1% today, 1 single percent, it feels like nothing, doesn't it? Barely noticeable. certainly not worth celebrating. But if you improve by 1% every day for a year, you don't end up 1% better. You end up 37 times better. That's the mathematics of consistency. That's the compound interest of small actions. Every person who's ever made a lasting impact on this world understood this secret. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. They didn't need to feel inspired. They didn't require ideal circumstances. They simply did something small and meaningful. Today, and then they did it again tomorrow. And the day after that. And the day after that. The novelist didn't wait to write a masterpiece. She wrote 200 words before breakfast, every single morning for years. And eventually, she had a novel. Then another. Then a legacy. The entrepreneur didn't wait for the perfect business plan. He made one sales call. Then another. Then another. Day after day. Until he built something remarkable. The mentor didn't wait to have all the answers. She showed up for one person who needed guidance. Then another. Week after week. Year after year. Until she'd changed hundreds of lives. Do you see it? The pattern, the secret hiding in plain sight. Impact isn't created in moments. It's created in repetition, in showing up, in doing the small thing even when it doesn't feel significant, in refusing to break the chain of consistency even when no one's watching and results seem impossibly far away. And here's your liberation. You don't have to change your entire life today. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to make some grand, dramatic gesture that terrifies you. You just have to do one small, meaningful thing. Today, something aligned with who you want to become. Something that moves you even an inch toward the legacy you want to leave. Write one paragraph. Make one call. Practice one skill. Show kindness to one person. Take one step toward that dream you've been postponing. Just one. Today. And then tomorrow, do it again. Because the difference between a life of impact and a life of regret isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't circumstances. It's consistency. Small, meaningful actions. Repeated until they become unstoppable. Start someday. Today. You become your legacy by serving something larger than yourself every single day. There's a particular emptiness that success brings. And I've seen it in the eyes of countless people who, by every conventional measure, have made it. They've accumulated wealth. They've climbed the ladder. They've achieved the goals they set for themselves years ago. And yet, there's this hollow feeling they can't shake. This quiet desperation that whispers in the middle of their accomplishments. Is this all there is? They're checking boxes, making money, winning competitions. But at night, when the noise stops and they're alone with their thoughts, they feel insignificant. Like they're just taking up space. Like they're consuming oxygen and resources, but not actually contributing anything that matters. Like they could disappear tomorrow, and the world would barely notice, would barely care. And that thought that their life might ultimately mean nothing, it terrifies them more than poverty ever could. More than failure. More than any external struggle. Because what's the point of winning if the game itself doesn't matter? Now let me share something with you. Something that might not make sense immediately, but I need you to hear it. That emptiness you feel, or that you're afraid you'll feel, it's not a flaw. It's not ingratitude or weakness or some psychological problem that needs fixing. It's actually a signal. A profoundly important signal that you're meant for something more than just personal achievement. See, human beings are wired in a very specific way. We're not built to exist in isolation, serving only ourselves. We're not designed to find fulfillment in mere accumulation or personal success. Every study, every bit of research, every ancient wisdom tradition points to the same truth. We're happiest, healthiest, most fulfilled when we're connected to something beyond ourselves. When we're part of something bigger. When we're serving a purpose that transcends our own survival and comfort. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most alive, most purposeful, most certain that you were doing exactly what you were meant to do. I'd bet everything I own that those weren't the moments you succeeded for yourself. They were the moments you helped someone else succeed. When you taught someone something valuable. When you eased someone's burden. When you contributed to something, a team, a cause, a community that mattered more than your individual ego. This is the paradox that most people never grasp. The more you focus on building your legacy, the more elusive it becomes. But the moment you shift your focus to serving something larger than yourself, a mission, a community, a cause, the growth of other people, legacy builds itself. Why? Because legacy isn't really about you at all. It never was. Legacy is what's left behind when you've poured yourself into something that outlasts you. It's the natural byproduct of a life spent in service to something meaningful. It's what happens when you stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give? How can I serve? What needs doing that I'm uniquely positioned to do?" The teacher who changes lives isn't thinking about legacy. While teaching, she's thinking about her students. The entrepreneur who builds something remarkable isn't obsessed with being remembered. He's obsessed with solving a problem that matters. The parent who raises extraordinary children isn't calculating historical significance. She's showing up every day to serve these young souls entrusted to her care. And here's what should fill you with hope, with purpose, with renewed energy. You don't need permission to serve. You don't need credentials or qualifications or some official appointment. You don't need to wait until you're successful enough or wise enough or established enough. You can start serving something larger than yourself today. Right now, this very moment. Maybe it's your family showing up fully present, giving them the best of your energy instead of your leftovers. Maybe it's your craft pursuing excellence not for applause, but because the work itself deserves your best effort. Maybe it's your community contributing your time, your talent, your resources to make it better. Maybe it's a cause you believe in: justice, education, healing, creation, something that stirs your soul and needs your participation. When you align your daily actions with service to something greater, everything changes. The work becomes meaningful. The struggles become purposeful. The setbacks become lessons instead of defeats. And your legacy. It stops being something you chase and becomes something you are. Because you're no longer living for yourself. You're living through yourself as a vessel for something bigger, something that will continue long after you're gone. Serve something larger. Daily. Not someday. That's how you become unforgettable. What you do today is writing the story others will tell about you tomorrow. I want you to imagine something that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Imagine you're gone. And the people who knew you, your children, your colleagues, your friends, the people whose lives intersected with yours, they're sitting around a table talking about you, remembering you, telling stories. What are they saying? And here's the part that sends a chill down your spine. What if the stories they're telling don't match the person you meant to be? What if they remember you for your worst moments instead of your best intentions? What if they talk about how you were always too busy, too distracted, too stressed to really be present? What if the legacy you're leaving is entirely different from the legacy you imagine? That gap between who you think you are and who you're actually being in the eyes of others, that's what keeps people awake at night. Because you can't go back and rewrite history. You can't take back the harsh words, the broken promises, the times you chose convenience over character. Once the story is written, it's written. And time is writing that story right now, whether you're paying attention or not. But hold on. Before that thought overwhelms you, I need you to understand something crucial. Something that changes everything if you really grasp it. See, most people think their story is already determined. They believe their reputation is fixed, their legacy is set, their narrative is beyond their control. They look at their past mistakes and think, well, that's who I am, that's what people think of me. It's too late to change it now. But that's not how stories work. That's not how human beings work. And that's certainly not how legacy works. Your story isn't finished until you stop writing it. And every single day today, this very day you're holding the pen, you're adding new chapters. You're creating new material for those future conversations. Think about it this way. When people remember you, they won't remember every single day you lived. They'll remember patterns. They'll remember who you were consistently. They'll remember the version of you that showed up most often. Were you the person who kept your word, or the person who made excuses? Were you the person who lifted others up, or the person who tore them down? Were you present in the important moments, or perpetually distracted? Were you growing, evolving, becoming better, or stuck, bitter, defending the same old version of yourself year after year? Here's the truth that should light a fire in your soul. The story people will tell about you tomorrow is being written by what you do today. Not yesterday, not 10 years ago, today. That conversation you're about to have, that's a page in your story. The choice you're about to make, that's a paragraph. The way you treat the next person you encounter, that's a sentence. And all of these pages, paragraphs, and sentences, They're accumulating. They're building a narrative. They're creating the material that will define how you're remembered. And the most powerful part, you can change the direction of your story right now. This moment. If you've been impatient, you can choose patience. If you've been selfish, you can choose generosity. If you've been absent, you can choose presence. If you've been mediocre, you can choose excellence, one choice today, then another tomorrow. And slowly, steadily, inevitably the story changes. You are not trapped by your past. You are not defined by your mistakes. You are not limited by who you've been up until this moment. Because every day is a new page. Every interaction is a new opportunity. Every choice is a chance to add to your story in a way that aligns with who you want to be remembered as. The question isn't whether you'll have a legacy. You will. Everyone does. The question is, what will that legacy be? And the answer to that question is being determined right now. In how you spend this day, in the choices you make this afternoon, in the person you decide to be when you close this book and step back into your life. So write it well. Write it true. Write it with intention. Because tomorrow, when people tell your story, they'll be reading the pages you're writing today. Make them good pages. Make them worth reading. Make them worthy of you. So here's my challenge to you tonight. Before you go to bed, write down these 4 commitments. I will give more than I take. I will grow every day. I will create something lasting. I will live with clear intention. Put them somewhere you'll see them every morning. And then, starting tomorrow, no, starting tonight, live them. Not perfectly, just faithfully. Do this and I promise you when your time comes, you won't have regrets. You won't wonder if your life mattered. You'll know. Because the people whose lives you touched, the work you left behind, the example you set, these things will speak for you long after your voice is silent. Your legacy is calling. Will you answer it? This is Earl Nightingale. Good night and good luck.